Hi, welcome to Making Wine at Home. I'm Cody Shive, and I've been making wine at home using wine kits for well over 7 years. So I decided to put together a YouTube series to help you learn how to make wine at home using wine kits. In this video, we discuss what you need to make wine at home. This will go through all of the equipment and the supplies that you'll need to acquire before you make your first wine kit. So I hope it gives you the information that you need. If I've left anything out, please leave a comment below. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel so that when new content comes up, you're notified. Again, enjoy this video. Thank you. To start with, you're going to need something for the primary fermentation. And the primary fermentation is going to be the initial stage that you start your wine kit. And you have two different kinds that you can purchase. This is this kind of fermenter is just a food grade bucket that has a lid that snaps on, and into the lid goes a standard airlock. Pretty no frills, very simple. Now there's also a premium, and there are others as well, but there are premium fermenters that you can buy. And what's nice about this, I think it's pronounced Speedle, is not only does it come with a screw-on plug, this is very easy to clean as well, but it also comes with a spigot. So if you don't pump your wine off in your secondary fermentation, you don't have too much sediment, you can use the spigot to move the wine from this container to the next stage of fermentation. This is the bottom cap that I use on the Speedle primary fermenter. However, if you'd like, and you know you're not going to have sediment above the spigot area, above this exit area, then you could use the spigot. And the spigot attaches really nicely here and can be used to drain the must out of the fermenter after your primary fermentation. But just remember, if you think you're going to have sediment that is going to be maybe an inch deep, you probably do not want to use the spigot. Now for secondary fermentation, I like to use a glass carboy. Now a glass carboy costs about $25, and I recommend that you buy 2 of them, because once you've moved from primary to secondary fermentation, then you're going to eventually rack out of this into another vessel, and you're going to want it in another glass carboy. Now the reason I recommend glass is inert. It's not going to take on any characteristics of the wines that you are fermenting. So, and they're pretty easy to clean. You would think it isn't, but it's fairly easy to clean. I'll show you in the next video when we actually clean and sanitize this. So I recommend you buy at least 2 of these. They're about $25 each, as I said, and buy a relief thermometer to put on it so that it's easy to tell what the temperature of the must or the wine is on the inside. It's not easy to drop a thermometer in this and pull it out. So I'd recommend getting, these are self-adhesive, they just stick on, and they're very useful. So for your secondary process and for your polishing, you're going to want glass carboy. Now let's talk about some of the additional equipment that you will need to make your wine kit. You will need a graduated cylinder. This is just a plastic cylinder that I use. It's easy to clean, but you can use a glass graduated cylinder if you'd like. You're going to need a hydrometer. This is used to measure the specific gravity. And you're going to need a wine thief. A wine thief is used to reach into the vessel and pull wine out. The way it works is there's a little float here, and as soon as you submerge this in the wine, the wine is going to travel up the cylinder, and when you pull it out, the weight of the wine is going to push down on this plug, and you'll use it to fill your graduated cylinder or your test glass if you taste your wine. Once you have filled your graduated cylinder with wine, then you'll use your hydrometer to float in the wine to determine what the specific gravity is. We'll talk about specific gravity in another video, but what that is used for is to determine what the alcohol by volume is in a calculation. You'll take the specific gravity when you first start your kit, and you'll take specific gravity at another time in the fermentation process, and possibly multiple times in the fermentation process. And you'll use that in a calculation to determine what your alcohol content is. You'll also need something called an autosiphon. Now, an autosiphon is used to pump the wine out of either one of your primary fermenters or out of your secondary fermenter into another fermenter. And the way that it works is it's immersed into the wine. When you pump this, it puts pressure in, wine comes out through this spigot. One thing to remember is make sure that you get the cup that goes on the bottom of your autosiphon, because what that does is it rests at the bottom of your fermenter and keeps the siphon just above whatever sediment is in the bottom of that fermenter, so you don't pull a lot of or any sediment if you can keep from getting sediment out. As we go through the racking process, you'll learn that racking, which is basically just moving the liquid from one container to another, is designed to leave that sediment behind and to pump that clear wine off in stages. You'll also need tubing. Now, this is standard food grade plastic tubing, and it's used to connect to your autosiphon just like that. Very simple, it friction fits. The autosiphon will go into your primary fermenter or whichever fermenter you're going to be moving the liquid from. And the other end will go into the receiving container if it's a carboy, and then this has to go on the floor. You have to have a differential for a siphon to work, and then to start it, you'll just pump it. And when you pump it, the liquid will come through. You may have to pump it a couple of times, but you'll pump it and the liquid will come through and go into the carboy. Now we're going to talk about two tools that you're going to need in addition to everything else. You're going to need a spoon that is food grade, has a bowl on one end, and has a paddle on the other end. Now what's important about that is in your primary fermenter, you'll use the spoon to stir up the bentonite and to stir the must with the fresh water that you add, along with any other ingredients. But that is not going to fit in your secondary fermenter. That's why you want a spoon that has a paddle on the end, because this will fit in your secondary fermenter and allow you to continue to mix ingredients and fining agents into your secondary fermentation. So that's very important to make sure that you have a good spoon. Another tool that I recommend is a good whip. Now, this is a premium whip. It's made of food grade plastic. It attaches to your drill on the other end, and it fits perfectly into the carboy. The whip is used to drive the carbon dioxide out of the wine during the stabilization degassing process. So you're going to want a good whip that will do the job for you and do it very quickly. Now we have a demonstration of this in a future video where you actually see the degassing occurring. So look forward to that. But as I said, I recommend that you buy the premium whip because they really do a great job. Now the last thing we're going to talk about are bungs or stoppers that you use in your carboy. Now you have two types. One is a solid bung. There's no hole in it. And then there is a bung that has a hole in it. Now they serve two purposes. The bung that doesn't have a hole in it is for the later stages of the kit making when you no longer have carbon dioxide that's being released from the wine, and you're going to let it sit still for a number of weeks. But the bung that has a hole in it is used to put an airlock. Now these airlocks are very low cost and they break. So buy a bunch of them. And I would say buy a bunch of these as well, because you'll find that if you're going to do more than one wine kit at a time, you're going to run out of these pretty quickly. But the airlock just affixes, goes in, and then you push that onto your carboy. Now, one thing that's important, and you're going to find bungs that are gum, that this is a plastic of some sort. You're going to find a bung that's gum, but make sure you get one that has a ridge on the top. You don't want this accidentally being forced into the carboy. I had that happen on one of my early wines that I did, and in order to get it out, I had to re-rack, and that wine did not turn out very well. It had been introduced to too much oxygen. So this will not fall into this carboy. It's going to stop. So make sure that you get one with a good rim on it, and you'll be in business. Now, what supplies are you going to need to keep things cleaned and sanitized? Well, there are some different products on the market. What I'm going to show you today are just an example. You can buy these or you can buy other products like them. But to start with, to clean, I use something called PBW. PBW is an oxidizing detergent that you can use in its powder form. And I also mix up a batch and put it in a spray container so that I can spray and clean inside things like that auto siphon we were looking at earlier. Then for sanitizing, you have a choice. You can buy something called Star San. Star San is an excellent sanitizer. What's good about Star San is it will become inert if it comes in contact with any alcohol or wine product. So you wouldn't want to leave a lot of it behind, but if you left a film of it behind, it wouldn't hurt your wine. I don't recommend you do that. I recommend that you rinse things off, but just in case, it's not going to hurt the wine. If you leave any PBW behind, it will oxidize the wine and it will ruin it. So this has to be, anytime you use PBW, it has to be thoroughly rinsed. Star San, and remember, this is a cleaner, this is a detergent. These are sanitizers. So Star San is a commercial sanitizer that you can use. I do the same thing. I mix it up with some water in a container, in a spray container. You can also use just plain old metabisulfite that you use in your standard winemaking process anyway. I buy it in bags in bulk, and then I just put it into these containers that I get from the pharmacist. Now, Cape metabisulfite is used for two different purposes. One is if you want to kill wild yeast, you can use a 1/4 teaspoon in 6 gallons of must. I keep the instructions written on the side so I don't have to try to remember it. If you want to sanitize, which is the solution that I've put in here, then I add 2 ounces of metabisulfite to 1 gallon of water. So this is a very low cost alternative. Star San is not that expensive, but certainly you have your choice of 2 different sanitizers. Now, arguably one of the toughest jobs is to clean the secondary fermenter, to clean these carboys, because obviously you can't get your hand in the top. So how do you make sure that this is clean on the inside? Well, this is where I'll use some granulated PBW, some warm water, and I'll use this, which is a Clean Bottle Express. And when I attach this to my drill, and I have a video showing how this works, when I attach that to the drill, that sufficiently cleans the inside of the carboy. It does a really nice job. So this is what I use to clean my carboys out, and it's very effective. Now, I know there are some of you who are going to write in and say, well, you could do the same thing with a brush. Yes, you can. You can get an angled brush like this, which will go into the carboy and allow you to clean the inside of the carboy. I will tell you, after nearly 100 kits that I have done, I find this to be very awkward to use. So I would say buy one, because if you do get something that's really stubborn on the inside, this will get it. But if you're looking for a thorough cleaning, I think I would prefer to use something else than this to clean the inside. Again, get one, because if you have something that's particularly stubborn, this will help you get it out. But I wouldn't rely on just this brush to clean the inside of your carboy. Well, that's it for this video, what you need to make wine at home. Be sure to click the subscribe button to see other videos on making wine at home. And before I forget, have a glass of wine. Cheers.